Welcome to the 902 Podcast, the official podcast of the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm Captain John Vick, and I want to thank you for listening. This podcast will give you an inside look at LSO with topics and guests to discuss public safety issues impacting Lancaster County. Be sure to follow the 902 Podcast for highlights on news, cases, and the people working for you at LSO. You can also follow us across social media at LSO Nebraska on Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Welcome to the 902 Podcast. We're in our virtual studio today. Sheriff Wagner's in the house, Chief Deputy Ben Houchin. Thanks for being here, guys.
Great to be here.
Good afternoon.
And we are absolutely just ecstatic to have a virtual guest today, and it is EJ O'Malley. And EJ, I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit, but you are what is your official title at the FBI Academy?
Yeah, so I share the pot of gold with three other very challenging and I think dynamic individuals with our health and fitness title position. So we are on the verge of calling it human performance, but our official title when I signed up 20 years ago was a health and fitness instructor position. So that's the four of us.
Awesome. Well, I got to experience that firsthand when I went through the National Academy with you and had a fantastic time. Sheriff Wagner, Chief Deputy Houchin, you guys were through 183?
183.
Okay, and 22.
Oh, congrats. Wow.
229.
Yep.
229. So we've probably had, maybe a mixed bag of the evolution as it's gone on over time. We can talk about that a little bit maybe when we get into it. But
certainly.
But just super glad that you're here to talk to us, just about physical fitness in general, a lot of the lessons learned, some of the things that are coming out of Quantico, and like you were saying, getting close to the, even almost retitling some of the program. But before we get into that, let's just give our listeners a little bit of background on EJ O'Malley. So EJ, where are you from originally, and where did you attend school?
Yeah, so I am a true hillbilly from northeastern Pennsylvania. I have to tell everybody Scranton, Pennsylvania, because everybody has seen The Office.
Right.
There's 76,000 people in Scranton, and I grew up in the borough of Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania, with about 1,766 people, to be pretty accurate. The county has about 2,600, but there was one red light when I grew up, and there's a few more in Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania now, but Scranton was always a big city, and I was scared to drive through Scranton, to be very honest with you. So I grew up, my mom was a teacher. She ran the show. My dad never made more than $25,000. So mom was the hammer, and dad let us get some sugary cereal every once in a while. So but they threw us into every sport. Where I come from, it's all we do is play sports. Procter & Gamble used to be the big industry, and now it's the jobs aren't where they used to be anymore up there. So it's the gas rights have kind of taken over, and there's some farmers with a little bit of money now, but it is very, very different. But we love home. I married a girl that lived a mile away from me. So I married one of my sister's best friends. She told me to stay away from them when I was young, and I just made my move later down the road. So we literally live a mile from each other, and the biggest thing is, did we spend more time with the outlaws or the in-laws? And that's always it's always a fun environment when we go up there, because both of our families are knee-deep in the northeastern Pennsylvania. So I knew no other way, and I was coached hard. And I'm just a product of my environment, just like anybody else.
So are you guys celebrating the Super Bowl yet, or is that just your wife? She's the Eagles fan. My wife is a diehard Eagles fan. I have been a Miami Dolphin fan my entire life as a young boy. So, but I will ride her train because she's really happy now. Yeah,
so.
I bet. So, you went to Lock Haven University? Was that where you did your bachelor's?
I was very fortunate. I tell everybody, my professor gave me this job. She landed this job on my lap. Lock Haven is a very small school in central Pennsylvania, very close to Penn State University, where a lot of my buddies went. But there was only about 10 people in my exercise science class, and we got to know our professors. And Dr. Roseanne Neff literally put this job on my lap and said, there's a position at the FBI. I had no idea that there was any kind of human performance strength and conditioning at the FBI. So without her, I am not here. I'm not here with you all today without networking with one dynamic professor.
So was there something in your life? I mean, you mentioned you played all kinds of sports and stuff growing up. Was there something that drew you to health and fitness specifically, to look for that as a career?
Absolutely. I think most of the people in my profession, whether you're a college strength coach at Nebraska or working at a YMCA, like I got hurt my senior year and it was over. And I knew no other path. I got good grades. I paid attention. I went to school, but I was going to play college baseball. And that's all I envisioned. And when I did get hurt, it's like I had to find the next closest thing. And that is just training for athletes, So most of my profession, those stories are very similar. And I just never knew that I would land a job with tremendous stability. I think I did spend some time with a lot of little jobs, and I call them little jobs because the Milwaukee Brewers, and I think 3 universities were very small gigs with not a lot of money. But I deep down knew that I was destined to do something different because I had a little bit of time with the fire department in Georgia when I was 20 years old, being my first job. And I never knew I'd come back to the service profession. And I'm still amazed that I do have this job at the FBI. But all the little jobs got me the big job. And make no mistake, I think this is the biggest job in my industry as far as dealing with all these 1% of tactical people and obviously our new agent population as well.
Well, and that was kind of my next question. You mentioned your professor kind of maybe illuminated the path for you a little bit, but
yes.
So was it, do you think it was that exposure to first responders kind of early on in your life?
No question.
Because maybe, little jobs, big jobs, you could do this a lot of different places. So what was it about the FBI that said, you know what, this is the place for me? You've been there 19 years now?
Yeah. So this is 20 years coming up this fall.
Wow.
So with only 10 more to go, this job means more than ever. I only have about 10 more years to make as much impact as possible and then find somebody smarter and younger, right, to take over, right? So no question. I think the fire department really started it all. I didn't do much work in the Dalton Police Department. We were very close to them, but the fire department had aerobic and strength training from the gun. And that's what got me in there. And I couldn't believe that it was mandated back in those days. But they seem to always have a footprint, I think, with the health and fitness of their jobs. And arguably they're not as busy as your jobs.
Well, they got they got more time to train because they can just sit there and and do all that.
Well, I'm glad you said that. I would not say that. So. But I think it was a pretty cool job where I had physical therapy there. There was recreation. There was personal training. And then all of a sudden, 2 or 3 days a week, you'd go over to the fire department and then just unload on those guys,
Yeah.
But that was the fun part. I got out of the office, and I think that just, for me, just lit another little fire of like, wow, these people are real life superheroes that run to fires, and you all run to bad people to get them, So I was always intrigued by that, but that was my only tactical experience is working with the fire. And then who would have thought that I'd be landing here in this bald eagle nation, right? Because that was Lock Haven University. We were bald eagles, and I think it's pretty cool that the bird is officially the bird now in our country. So
there you go. Well, what was it like when you got the job at the FBI then? I mean, I'm guessing it was pretty competitive.
Yes, it was. I had to take the PT test, and I was one of the last of the Mohicans, honestly, to take that PT test. So now we do some different things with some of our people that we would like to hire. But I remember taking that test and sitting in the locker room, and I was like, I don't think I got this job because they didn't tell me anything. They just said, you're doing this, this, and this. And I was like, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. But I was sweating bullets in that locker room because I never done a PT test like that. I was used to the physical preparation of sports performance, but I never really, not that I wasn't trained and ready, but I didn't know. They wouldn't tell me anything. So we had to do a 10-minute lecture. We had to do the PT test. And I was a little intimidated because that was my first crack, I think, at a law enforcement facility that I just knew my physical attributes, I hope, were okay. I just hope I made sense in a 10-minute interview, you know, in the classroom. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was a lot of pressure. I've never felt that kind of pressure, I think, in a job offer or just an application, right?
Well,
so
Sheriff, so 183 would have been 1995. Okay, so that would have been back, you know, a little bit before the era that you started, EJ. But that would have been, you know, when you're talking, it was the old PT test back then, right? Or is that what you call it?
Yeah, Sheriff, I have to apologize to you. We probably ran too much, right? But that was all we had.
Yes, we did. Yeah, we ran way too much.
So now when I see you in a couple of weeks back in Quantico, we're going to show you a weapon system that we cut running in half, you know, and it's the smartest thing that we've ever done at the academy. Not only with you all, but with new agents. We are just dropping mileage because we have assault bikes and we have better weapons of construction, to be brutally honest. So I think it's never been safer there, just because we have some turf. We have a brand new facility that I'll talk about a little bit later that's opening, that's going to look like Nebraska at a very smaller scale. But yeah, why would we run more? It doesn't make a lot of sense to us, but we're definitely into, you know, and we'll get into the weeds of a little bit more power, more strength, more things that are close to your job tasks. I mean, at the end of the day, and, you know, the long, slow run to nowhere is kind of over around Quantico anymore.
Well,
so, except for the yellow brick road, that is going to be still tradition, you know. So
Ben and I have been trying to work our way off of the assault bike, and because that thing's brutal. We're recovering for some injuries slowly, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that is the number one weapon on our arsenal. When I even went out to the UFC a couple of years ago, they said fighters don't even want to get on that bike. They just want to fight, right? So
yeah.
If some of the baddest people in the world don't like that bike, what about you and I, normal people?
Sure.
So, but orthopedically, it's the friendliest environment in the world. It's just metabolically going to destroy your soul. Right?
It does.
Levels.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's get into the meat and potatoes, and I've, you know.
Meat and potatoes. Sounds good.
Well, yeah. I mean, we'll talk about.
Didn't we talk about diet here, and this is where we're going with this?
I'm looking at my notes. We got nutrition coming up, so maybe meat and potatoes was the wrong way to put that. But
now you remember, my mom was a home ec teacher, so she can answer those questions. If you all remember home ec, right? So I was a spoiled, rotten kid. Everything was prepared for me. Well, my children are growing up very differently.
Right. The fun thing for me, you know, and I had pictured physical fitness in my mind, going to Quantico and things, and I'd seen some of the videos ahead of time, so I was trying to figure out what the heck I was supposed to be doing. But the cool thing was, at least in our class, and I don't know if it was the same when you guys went through, but the first thing that we actually did with you was not get on the track, not hit the assault bike. We were in a classroom, and you were talking, you were kind of laying some of the foundation on why this stuff is even important in the first place. And I appreciate you doing that, because I think it kind of put the framework in place for us to really, you know, understand, put it in a big picture of why it even mattered what we were doing.
Yeah. And I think I've been voted the hammer to come talk to everybody that comes through NA in the auditorium. You all remember, in the auditorium was when there was a little tone set, right? So,
yep.
And I just come in there just trying to be a buzzsaw, saying, you're going to go home different, physically, mentally, and technically, you know, and just try to tell them, like, a little bit more before we get into the training, like exactly what's going to happen and we call our shot, right? So,
yep.
But we just have a different weapon system now that is just so much better orthopedically. And I think we want to compete, right? Everything we do is competitive. From the time mile to the next time mile down the road. And I think it's really fostered an environment where you all need this, you know. I think in your careers, every officer does, right? But you're the 1%, right? So we see the 1%, but I think every tactical person needs to have some kind of camp like this just to stir the pot and say, hey, I can do more. I can be more. I can become more, you know? So I appreciate being that hammer and just setting that tone early for everybody. And I think there's only 4 of us that do what we do. So it's really amazing. I was a little sad today because they graduate tomorrow and I have to send them back to their families. So as you see people change on a weekly basis based on just their engines, you know, and shoot, I want V8s and V12s, you know, and that's the only engine I'm interested in, you know. And then you get some really confident people going back home. So it's going to be a tough day for me tomorrow to see graduation, because you see people just change in 10 weeks, which is really, as a coach, there's no greater good when you see that happen.
We maybe have a little different perspective than like the fire side of the house, but I know a lot of the kind of, you mentioned UFC and stuff. A lot of the stuff that we're doing it's not like we're learning how to fight, but we almost put it in perspective of winning that fight. Because that's a very real thing for those of us in law enforcement that,
right.
Strength wise, cardiovascular wise, there are some times in our job where we do have to win the fight, because it means going back home to our families. And I really appreciate that being front of mind for you guys when we're out there of, really, really setting the stage and I've got some of your mantras written down here in my notes, but that nothing else matters of, doing it for the family, making sure that we've got, not only coming home at the end of our shift, but coming home at the end of our career. And I think that's super important.
Yeah, I think when you sent me that script and you put, you run to people that are complete strangers and put your lives on the line. And that one punches me right in the gut, so how blessed am I? How fortunate am I? How lucky am I to train with the best of the best in the world, and this is global. Our international students are incredible. I can't even speak English and they speak 5 languages, so to be able to teach and train the best in the world, like there is no greater job in the world for me, and I still can't believe I'm here. So
let's talk a little bit about, just some of the health risks that we're up against as far as those of us that are in public safety. Because I know that was something that you rolled out a little bit for us, just to set the stage so that we knew what we were trying to really, what are we building resiliency and defenses against?
What about movement health? I mean, let's start there, right? It's like the ship was built to sail, not sit in docks. When we sit in docks, I mean, this is why, I'm married to an ICU nurse. So there isn't a day that we don't go talk about death and dying in some of her patients, and it's, and that's where I have to listen to her and not talk and stay quiet. But the body was built to move. And when it doesn't move, I mean, there will be payback someday, whether it's orthopedic stuff or whether it's illness of whatever level. So the foundation, and you can say it, cancer, heart disease, and diabetes, but I'm going to flat out call, like, your movement quality and quantity is number one. So that we try to establish in our 10-week camp with everybody, whether it's new agents or National Academy. And then we get into the weeds of, hey, what's your injury history look like? With my previous shoulder for a long time, and I tore a meniscus during COVID. So there's some things that I have to work on every single day because I don't want to see that physical therapist again. Mm-hmm. In my next 10-year run, the goal is never to see her again. She was amazing. Our hostage rescue team helped me find this badass clinician, but I don't want to see her again. So I do daily things that I need to do, not what I want to do. And there's a difference there, right? So I think the injury stuff, everybody has them. Can we work around them? And can we give people minor league drills and major league drills so we can work around that stuff? But who is not banged up orthopedically at all of our ages? It's everybody.
Yeah.
So, but again, your physical activity, we just want more, never less, right? It's like the standard is the standard, and we need to move every single day. And it could be days of easy work or days of hard work. And to be honest with you, that's just a hillbilly from Pennsylvania. If I did something easy, the next day should be hard. And I can alternate that. And I think that is absolutely sustainable. But I'm more impressed with your easy days than your hard days. So twice a week, everybody should get out of breath. Everybody, every human being, not just law enforcement, should get out of breath twice a week. I mandate that. The other days have to be easy because the easy day sets me up for the hard day. So
yeah,
I think so those things are primary. Probably the number one problem that we have in law enforcement is who's really getting 7 hours, not 8 hours or 9 hours, but who's actually getting 7. When I sleep 7, I feel like a Wolverine. When I have a 4 or 5 hour night, I do too sometimes as well. That's when I am gassed, so, but I do think it's the biggest threat in all of law enforcement is just the sleep. And we can call that like a major, major risk factor if I'm not getting enough for you as an individual. So,
and that's on the recovery side with the sleep and really just setting up, all the rhythms.
Yeah, we did it with new agents yesterday. We took them outside because they were inside all day. So we went out for a 10-minute walk. That's all we did. I want you to get sunlight. And then I told them at sunset, they should go out at sunset every single night that the sun's going down, 2 minutes up to 10 minutes as far as natural melatonin. I'm not interested in the bottle of melatonin because that is questionable. But if it is sunset and I got 2 minutes to go outside on the deck, that's going to set that circadian rhythm up for a great night of sleep, hopefully, right? So yeah. I like free stuff, and the sun is free. But the Irish don't like to spend a lot of time in the sun, correct? So I have to be very careful, right? But who doesn't have 2 minutes to go outside on the deck at sunset? So that's natural melatonin.
So speaking of Irish, we've got St. Patrick's Day coming up, and a lot of people don't like to talk about this when it comes to human performance, but alcohol, other than making you sing karaoke better, it can have some detriments.
No, it makes you think you can sing.
Maybe it makes me.
Not does.
So what are we telling people about alcohol these days?
This is where I become extremely unpopular, right? It's like, and I'm voted out of the room. I will always drink beer. My dad, who's 85, if he wants to have a beer with me, the answer is yes. But he wants to have like a second or third one, and that's where I got to shut down my father, right? I just want to live as long as my parents, right? So, and I struggle because if I have 3 beers, the NFL talks about 5 beers being like too much. My testosterone, my growth hormone, my blood sugar is completely destroyed for a bunch of days. So the cell phone will never get back to full, 100% full. And the only way it does that is if I get rid of this alcohol. But if I had too much fun, it's going to take me 3 days up to 5 days, like for literally to get your cell phone back and your nervous system back to 100%. So I'm deeply worried about that too for every officer that still thinks the choir practice is needed. There's got to be a better way. But I do enjoy a beer. I always will. I'll go to my grave with it. But I can't do what I used to do and expect high performance.
How about Irish whiskey? Was that Irish whiskey? Would that be a good substitute?
I think everybody that's not Irish, this is your holiday, not mine, right? So,
yeah.
But I will have a little bit, but boy, it affects my sleep, which will affect my performance. And then I can't go down that road, you know. But I think we should tell the young officers exactly what it's going to do from a muscle physiology standpoint. And that's when I tell them it's going to, you know, disrupt your REM cycles. You're waking up and you don't even know you're waking up, but you wake up. If I had too much, 1 to 2 doesn't dehydrate anybody. But when we dabble with that 3 to 5, like the NFL talks about, it's poison, is it not? It is just poison. And that's whether it's whiskey or whether it's beer or wine, it does not matter. So I don't talk about the detriments. I just want people to know from a physiology standpoint, when you go to bench press in the room the next day, it's about a 40% loss of strength. So what am I doing? My immune system's in a further hole than it already is. Because I've always heard the tough guy cops are telling me, oh, EJ, I'm just going to sweat it out. Well, that's probably one of the dumbest things you can do because your immune system's already broke, right? So it just takes that guy or that girl longer to recover from having one of those big nights. So I just got to be careful of the big nights, you know, 1 to 2, no problem. 0 is probably the greatest thing to do is not to have some of that stuff, at least Monday through Friday. Weekends, have some fun with food and maybe a beer, but it is just a huge, you know, maybe the number 2 issue in all law enforcement. I think sleep is one. I think the alcohol, maybe it's gotten better for some people and there's some recovering people for it, but we have to talk about it. You know, when you're talking about mental health, if you don't talk about sleep, you don't talk about alcohol, that's a problem.
So let's talk about some of the other things that first responders, law enforcement have to balance too, and nutrition being one of them. You know, we've got folks that are working shift work, even when you're not working shift work. You know, we're moms, we're dads. You've got kids of your own. So how do you balance like the nutritional side of things as far as when you're, well, I mean, I think you would refer to it as training and not working out, right?
Yeah, I love that word train because there's a target. You know, when you're working out, it's like grabbing stuff out of hats. And I think that's okay for the average person, the taxpayer, but not for people in your line of business or in mine, right? There's got to be a target every day. there's got to be an objective every day that we train. So I like the word training rather than a workout. Just my personal opinion. It's difficult, right? It's like I plan it. I plan my sleep. I coach my sleep, just like I do my training, but I think to each his own. We have to find out what works for some and what doesn't. One size fits all is dead, and I think that's probably some of the best things we've done at the academy recently is to put people in some minor league camps, major league camps, and they know what camp they're in, right? So they know what drill they can do or maybe skip that drill. And new agents can't skip drills. They have to do exactly what we tell them to do. In National Academy, there are multiple options we want to throw at you just to get you better, but there is room for development somewhere else, right? And that's the difference between the 1% and then our new agents who don't have a job, right? They have to do exactly what we tell them to do. And I do want some range, I think, with as many people that I can talk to as far as individual training stuff. But the nutrition, honestly, it's like Monday through Friday. I hope you all believe you have unbelievable jobs of service, right? And I want you to do it for as long as you possibly want and then retire and fish and golf whenever the heck you want. Like, that's the goal. Monday through Friday, I want to be a UFC fighter. On weekends, I want to be a normal dad because I coach flag football. Back season's coming with my boys, and I have to wear that role too of a coach training other kids. And that's kind of my is, hey, I get to show a kid how to warm up. I get to show a kid flag football. So I wear a lot of those roles too, just like you all. And I have to slide in some nutrition for performance. I have to slide in, I think, here's some speed and some power, for some of the sports that the kids play. And I'm just blessed to coach. So nothing changes. It's just the fountain of youth, right? I deal with grown men and grown women at work. And I think the key is, can I establish that with the youth of America? So I am a public health advocate, make no mistake. And that's why I love coaching the kids on weekends and sometimes during the week.
If you want a challenging career, a career where you can make a difference in your life, your family's life, and the lives of those in your community, come and join the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office. To learn more or to apply, visit us online at www.joinlso.com.
So let's talk a little bit, and we don't have enough time to go through a full, this isn't a personal training session. But if you were to talk just to somebody about how do you keep it simple and just even get started when it comes to, you talk a little bit about that contrasting strength to power, but what if you're not just running the slow run to nowhere, what's a good way for somebody to keep it simple and have those goals?
I want you to write this one down. I'll ask you to write one thing down for me today. So Andy Galpin is a big-time exercise science professor. He deals with a lot of fighters. He deals with a lot of baseball people. I'll send you some clips of him, but he has the big three, and I've been rolling with the big three for a while now. So the first order of business is getting great muscle tissue. So we need to lift, whether it's body weight, whether it's some kettlebells or dumbbells or barbells. Like, I just need the people to lift at least twice a week, and that is mandated. Some days heavy, some days light. I'd prefer some heavy stuff because the literature as far as bone density is saying, please find 3 reps, please find 5 reps. I'm not a huge fan of 15 to 20 reps. That's more strength endurance. I need to go back to strength. Our foundation when we all came up the ranks was how strong can we be? And I think we've missed out on too much conditioning right now. We got to go back to strength. So think about, like, for every officer, for every support staff, twice a week, you have to strain. And if you're not straining, you're not training, right? So I don't need a spotter, but I need to make sure I'm playing with some body weight stuff and going to fatigue. Or if I'm using a dumbbell, barbell, kettlebell, you have to strain and find something heavy. As long as my technique is impeccable, no one's going to get hurt, right? We've all gotten hurt lifting weights when we were in high school and junior high, right? But nobody coached me. I was never coached. So Andy Galpin's first order of business is to get people strong, and strong for what they weigh, right? Who cares what you weigh? I don't care what their body fat is on anybody, but I need people lifting. So I think I want to always start with that being the foundation of a pyramid, if we had to put it, is going to be strength.
Okay.
Now they
Right.
say
So you said,
well, they say
I'm
something.
sorry.
No, just a question. They, like body fat you're talking about, but I have heard it's hard to get rid of that if you don't lift weights. Is that true or?
absolutely, absolutely. People can condition all you want. You're just burning calories. But when you and I are lifting weights and sitting here as we are right now, we're burning calories because we have better muscle tissue, right? So the more muscle I can get every adult, right, regardless of law enforcement, the more I burn calories at rest, So elite level muscle tissue is so important, and literally twice a week. It doesn't have to be 4 or 5 days a week like we all grew up lifting weights a lot. I just want you to be intense when you do it, right? I mean, when you're lifting some heavy stuff, intensity is everything, right?
Okay.
It's not the drill. It's how intense can I be with 3 to 5 reps? And I want to make sure it's clear that no one's getting stronger with high repetitions, right? That's all endurance work, strength endurance work. I got to go back to true strength. The other day in class, we did a little bit higher rep range. We went 6 by 10. And John, I don't know if we did it when you came through. So that's a UFC drill from Duncan French. And then Andrew Huberman is a big neuroscientist out there. So Duncan French said with his fighters, 6 sets of 10 dumbbell bench. And in my class, the intensity was through the roof because the boys love the bench press or dumbbell press, right?
Yeah.
But there were people going to the well. 6 sets of 10 reps is a lot of reps, but we were going with a 2-minute rest in between for 6 sets of 10. And that was some of the most high intensity drill we were doing the entire session. And
wow.
They bought in. But when I tell you that my weight has to be 65s, they have to be 70s. I get buried, and then 55s are too light. So I know exactly what load I need to do it 10 times and rest 2 minutes between every one. It is a nightmare of a drill that will challenge anybody. You just have to make sure you pick the right load, right?
Well, so you don't want to go lower though. So if you do the first 3, you don't want to have to drop. Okay.
Right. Yeah, because then it's too easy. The back 3 sets will be very challenging for people, So I think you have to experiment, but I know my 65s because I've passed the test, I've failed the test, depends on how fresh I am.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 55s would be a waste of my time. That's a warm-up set for me.
But you want to go to fatigue though, is what you were saying.
I do want to go to fatigue. I don't like that word failure because then I have to spot somebody from the wrist, and that could be a little chaotic, right? So, but I need people to strain when they lift. I mean, whether it's lower body, upper body, it doesn't really matter. So that 6 by 10 can work with pulling, can work with pushing, can work with legs, and it's a beautiful recipe coming out of the UFC. So.
Okay, awesome. So muscle tissue lifting is primary.
So that's the foundation. That's the pyramid at the bottom. And then the second one, what about motor control? I'm trying to react to some stimulus, I mean, that is motor control. So something, whether I have to dodge and evade the medicine ball or I have to try to juke the kids a little bit, I mean, that it's athletic stuff. So I need people doing some athletic stuff. I think doing some sprint work is pretty cool for everybody. Sprints on the assault bike are just as important as doing some sprints, I think, outside on the track. But doing some stuff that really get that nervous system firing, and that's med ball throws with us, and that's using some track, some assault bike, and doing some power. Like all that is really some neuromuscular power. So that one's at number 2 for Andy Galpin is just play some sports. I know pickleball is through the roof right now, but there's a lot of injuries of pickleball. Why? Because you're moving lateral and you are reacting to a stimulus, right? So, but I always tell parents, go play, just go play. I have a basketball court in the backyard, just playing with the kids. They can do moves now that I can't do, or I used to be able to do them, but just out there, just moving lateral, moving with some rotation. That is what we want to call some nervous system work or just some motor control.
All right. So
and then the final one is I'm going to get your ticker. The only muscle I truly care about is that heart. That's what's going to keep you away from disease and living a long time playing on a golf course someday.
Keeps you from being dead too.
Yeah.
Keeps from being dead too. Yeah.
That thing working is kind of important.
Yes. So think about your cardiovascular system, in the last bunch of years here, we've been attacked with your immune system, right? in our ability to build a big engine with your immune system, right? It's that simple. So your hearts and lung is what I'm after. And that's why I want V12s. I'm not interested in some low output engine. I want a big engine. So I have two things I have to do there. I have to sustain, which means if I'm on an assault bike, can I go 3 minutes? Can I keep a consistent average power? So let's say I'm not on an assault bike and I want to stay around 250 watts. Can I hold that for 3 minutes? And that's going to be a brawl, right?
Yeah.
There'll be highs, there'll be lows, but can you sustain that? And then again, the other opposite end of the spectrum is now, hey, let me see you in 5 seconds just rip this assault bike to shreds, right? So that is two different worlds. One you have to sustain, and it's going to go a long time. And then the other one is just power, repeat power, repeat power. So I think we should walk. We got a German Shepherd 2 years ago. I have never walked with my wife and this dog more in my life. And I think it's pretty cool. I used to tell my wife, I don't want to walk, I'm going to run, but now I've reversed the course. So my aerobic engine, just going for a walk with this dog and my wife, has helped me tremendously with my cardiovascular system. Because at work, we don't have a lot of time to train you, so it's only about a half hour. So I do all the other stuff at work, but at home, a nice long walk everybody should be doing, whether it's after dinner or whether it's on a weekend. So I tell everybody, go get a German Shepherd. That thing will pull, right? They'll make you walk fast, right?
Right.
So, but I think with the cardiovascular stuff, you got to give me some easy work, and maybe I sneak in 30 minutes of a walk, and then you got to give me some 3-minute stuff. John, when you guys, I know you remember the drill of the 5 boroughs before you go to Manhattan. So I just bring the bikes over and the clock, and we're going to go 3 minutes to be Manhattan on that borough challenge.
Yep.
So, and everyone's staring at that clock, and you got 3 minutes to produce. So I need people to get into those weeds because that's anaerobic, right? Like that defines a little bit of a fist fight, is going 3 minutes on that bike. So some easy walking, I think, is good aerobically. Just stay conversational. Do some sustained work. I think a couple minutes is good. And how much output can I get in there? And then again, our grassroots, when you come into us, it's like we are touching power with a 5-second assault bike, with everybody. So, but there are 3 windows.
Yeah. And I mean, what I'm hearing from you though is, and it's, you mentioned matching, the tactical athlete of what we're trying to do. A lot of times, whether it's state, local police, FBI agents, even our sports staff, you're going from sedentary to getting in the game real quick, and so we're training our body to be able to respond to those types of requests that we're making of it.
Yeah, so all of a sudden you have to be a lion, right? So, and from a rested environment, and I think the only thing I can do there is I can't control that dynamic, but what I can control is your ability to work on daily movement, and to make sure I'm doing some mobility and some stability stuff too. So there's a lot of things you can't control. And I want to just take over the controllables, right? And that is the fueling, that's going to be the sleeping, that's going to be the movement. But I just think a lot of people do just one thing, and it's one dimensional in law enforcement, right? And there's just not enough other things in the repertoire. So, but yeah, in a perfect world, I mean, I need to warm up before I go play basketball. I can't just be that lion with the kids and start guarding them. So, but I'm dealing with a sport. You're dealing with lives are on the line, right? So, I just want to make sure that the people that are really fit, that get even fitter, are okay responding that quickly. It's just the ones that aren't in the best of shape. Now we're talking injury. Now we're talking workman's comp. And that can be avoided if I just got people a little better, and hey, the FBI, they're 3 days a week of training. There should be no unfit FBI agent out there. And if they are, they're just going to lunch every 3 days a week, they are on the clock to do that. So I would love if every sworn law enforcement officer should be doing a few minutes throughout the shift. And even our support staff at Quantico, we got everybody walking now. So our new AD said, get everybody out moving for 30 minutes or so. And I think that's been refreshing. That's never happened at Quantico.
Well, we're really blessed here. I mean, the sheriff has moved some policy directions, so we're able to do some workouts on duty now, which is awesome.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you for that. That's amazing.
I got a question. You're talking about all these things and doing these things, and it's kind of directed towards law enforcement. As people, not everybody that listens to our podcast is in law enforcement. What were you saying? Like for somebody who does a sport, wants to golf or wants to play softball, or they have a different agenda. Like some of us here do some adventure races where you bike and get in the water and do those things.
Yeah.
What kind of change of the workout would you suggest doing, or do you just say, hey, this is the best thing in the world for all of that?
Well, let's talk about the first thing you said, like golf. I mean, who doesn't like to go play golf, right? It's like, I think, but it's a rotational game, right? Like, make no mistake, there's a lot of stuff going on at the back and the shoulder that we need to address. So if I wanted to play golf forever, which I think is an unbelievable hobby, and maybe I have aspirations down the road because it's something very different, right? Mm-hmm. Just getting out in nature, first of all. But there's got to be specific drills. And Lee Trevino said it best a long, long time ago. It's the Indian, not the arrows. If I take care of my body, it's not the new golf clubs, right? It's my body is better. Greg Norman brought strength and conditioning to the golf world, right? Like the Shark was the guy doing strength and conditioning way before anybody else too. So that is a very violent action of a golf swing. And if you're not fit, I mean, the body will take over at some point. So every golfer should be doing a little bit of strength and conditioning to make their game better, right? And as far as like the endurance stuff, I think it's incredible because the swim is orthopedically friendly. The bike, I mean, every runner turns into a biker, right? So most people should bike and not run, to be honest with you. I want to run forever. I think every tactical person should, just not too much. But I'd rather you dose more bike work than run work, right? It's like, think about dropping a golf ball on the pavement. How much, how is that going into that ground? And the bike is orthopedically friendly. So yeah. I like a little bit of the short triathlon stuff. Now the longer triathlon stuff, I wouldn't be a good husband or father. I'd be gone all day, right? So I'm a bigger fan of more of the short stuff where I can go harder, right? I'd rather a 5K or a 1 mile race than a Marine Corps half marathon, right? It's like, because when I do a half marathon, I'm not a good father or husband when I get back home, right? I just want to lay around. So I definitely think shorter and harder is better. But I'm a huge fan of the swim and the bike. And, at age 50 for me, it's like, I'm getting in the pool more at Quantico. I'm doing a little bit more bike work. So
yeah, I could have had you here telling me this a little sooner than now.
Well, hey, how about this though? There's an orthopedic surgeon who came out, and she's everywhere, and I'll send it to you. She said the wheels will never fall off until age 70, right? So she said we have plenty of time to get better athletically, individually. And she is an unbelievable clinician that doesn't want to cut people. She wants prevention and reduction. So if she's telling me I got 20 more years until the wheels fall off, I am listening.
Yeah,
so it's never too late.
My wheels have already fallen off. So,
well, you're
I don't think
you're
so.
almost there. You're not quite there yet, though. Yeah. So,
never too late. Never too late.
One of the other things I've got written down here on a note. And I actually just talked to Sarah Draper. You remember Sarah Draper?
Unbelievable. We miss her. No, we haven't replaced her. We never will. So
well, and it doesn't surprise me. So, some people look at it as mushy gushy stuff, but there's actually a lot of science behind it. A lot of the breathing stuff that she was putting in, I think, especially at the National Academy. And are you guys doing some of that for new agents now too?
We are. That's a huge part of our curriculum. We have like 12 blocks of mindfulness training for them, but I am not Sarah Draper. She is world class, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We have been taking some breathing courses. There's some cool drills out of Wisconsin. I know that might not go over too well in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, it's Big Ten country. I know it's been rough.
But how about this though? Chad McGee, he is the only director of meditation in all of intercollegiate athletics. And he came over to HRT for a couple of days, and we went over, and he blew us away, absolutely blew us away. Jonathan Taylor, yoga, just Google that, look up that video. Like, Jonathan Taylor got paid, but he was with Chad for 4 years at Wisconsin. So he is a huge part of our curriculum. He has given us the rights to talk about all this stuff. I mean, he is unbelievable. When I drive home, I'll give you a quick example. When I drive home into the chaos of my house with 3 boys, a German Shepherd, and a Philadelphia Eagle fan, I take a couple breaths, and I just think one of Chad's drills is feet, seat, jaw. So before I get into that driveway, like I pull in and I think about my feet into the floor of the vehicle. I think about my seat and my clothing in the seat. And then I think about, can I relax my shoulders, my neck, and my jaw, and then enter the chaos of my household and give them all the attention in the world. So that is you're right. It is mushy. It is gushy. I was hesitant, but I am all in because it makes me feel better. And I swear I am a better father and husband when I enter that door. The only one that comes running to me is that dog. Make no mistake at this level. But when I get in there, I'm actually listening to how was their day and asking some questions. And Chad blew us away. And the cool part about it, it's like 8 to 12 minutes, 3 times a week. That's it. Like it's a minimal dose for a very big impact. So there's some drills that I can send you that have completely blown me away. I had a little bit of this in high school. In college, I did some sports psychology stuff. I just never knew it'd be part of our curriculum. And we're sliding it to National Academy as well. The other day with National Academy, I'll give you one more. I asked them, who do you hold dear? Who inspires you? And what do you appreciate about you? And I put a minute on the clock and I said, I want you to go to those domains and I use your breath as a weapon, but think about who do you hold dear in your lives? Who inspires you? And the hardest one is always going to be, what do you appreciate about you? And that is from Chad, So I think we're trying to get into the minds. We've done the strength and conditioning forever. We have not strength and conditioning the mind at all at Quantico. And we're behind the military. The military has been doing this for how long? Yeah. So we have just started this course. And I think it just makes me feel better.
Well, before we let you go,
I got one question. Sorry,
yeah,
Joe.
go ahead.
You hear a lot of people saying, "Hey, I just don't have time to work out." What do you say to them, and how do you get them motivated to be able to do that?
You send me that person, or I'll come out to Nebraska. I am going to shadow them for an hour or 24 hours. I promise to find time. Right. The coolest part about some of these drills, I mean, we can do it. I mean, we train for under a half hour. So the goal is under an hour. Right. 10 minutes, 15 minutes. If we're doing some of that sustained work on that bike, there's no way we're going past 15 minutes of training. I think, John, you remember one of the training sessions was 15 minutes total time when we did those up downs and the hip unders. So I think back in the day, you could use that as an excuse now, not with the literature now, and not with like, hey, harder and better and faster, and then we're done here and go recover. Right. So, but I think, look, until people land in my wife's ICU, they don't make it a priority. I don't want to be, nobody wants to go to my wife in that VC, in that hospital environment. It has to be a priority with some people. And it can be very simple, just starting with 3 days a week. Right. I don't need 6 days a week, but I need a camp of about 8 weeks, 3 days a week, and tell me how you feel. Right. So, but I always say, when is it going to be the priority? Because it has to be. You're too darn good at your jobs not to move your bodies.
Well, it's amazing too, as you get started and you do the little, a little bit of time, you start building on it. And the great thing is you feel worse if you don't do it. And I think that's a good place to get.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Those neurotransmitters, every time you exercise, whether it's high intensity, low intensity, all those things are firing. And that's what makes you feel better about yourself. Yeah. Right. It's like, so to me, it doesn't matter if it's high or low. Did you train today? And if the answer is yes, I bet you feel better. And again, that's going to give people big retirement packages down the road to me, right? It's like, I'm in the business to collect small retirement checks. And every time I train, it's just going to be more money coming to me and my family, So I think about that a lot with only 10 years to go.
Right. Well, and I know what it's like having EJ O'Malley follow you around, because I made the mistake of challenging you to that race. When we were doing our laps, getting ready for the mile, and, you followed me around for like half a lap because you were yelling at me the whole time, and then I think you passed me. But
I've never yelled at you.
So. Just intensity. That's all it was, I think. So it's good. It's all good. So,
well, I mean, every time we have people outside, inside, like I have to be the best part of their day, because the other days are tough with classes and public speaking, and so we have to dominate you for an hour and a half, right? It's like, that's our job.
Yeah. So. Well, job well done. So, and I appreciate it to this day. But before we let you go, I wanted to talk about the physical training unit at Quantico itself, because you guys have made a ton of changes there. So we've talked about, the National Academy. We've talked about the National Academy on this show, so I think our listeners are familiar with what that is. You have new agents out there, so people that are trying to become FBI agents and graduate from Quantico. HRT, we've talked about that a little bit, and so that's the hostage rescue team. That's kind of the tier 1 operators that are out there at Quantico. The kind of the SWAT team of SWAT teams, right?
Yes.
So are those the three groups that you work with?
Yeah, we had to take a little break from HRT just because these new blocks with mindfulness with new agents, I think with National Academy in there, we lost 2 people to other jobs. So right now there's only 4 of us. So we had to take a break from HRT. I miss going over there. They still consult with us quite a bit, but we had to let something go. And unfortunately it's the tier 1 people, but we're just too busy right now. We love staying busy, but we couldn't give them an hour and a half, 3 days a week. We literally could not do that. So they do have a strength coach over there. I can always share what we did with them. I mean, it's an open book on that world too. I can pick on them as well, right? Like they're not doing it right either. They're injury riddled too. So sometimes they're making the biggest mistakes over on that team. And the stress of all their travels, right? They're always traveling, always training.
Yep.
But when we went over there, it's like-minded people hanging out together. And that doesn't happen too often in life, right? Where all they're concerned about was fueling training, shooting firearms, right? It's like, but I miss them tremendously, but you know what? Like our new agents need us more than ever because these kids are different, right? It's like, you don't have as many athletes in the room on the new agent side of the house as we used to. Maybe we need to recruit a little bit better. I'm not sure, but they need their minds and their bodies, and we need to focus on them a little bit because they're our college freshmen, right? And they're going to go to the field quick. And with everything going on now in this wild world, like they may go out in those streets a little bit more than they ever have in their life, right? So we have to bulletproof them to the best of our ability, physically, mentally, and technically, because they're not former cops, they're not former military, right? For a lot of them, they are cyber people, So, and cyber people sit at the desk sometimes, and that's going to kill them if they don't move and move really well and move really often, right? So, I think we just had to divert a little bit, but we have a monster facility coming.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's a $48 million. It went up from $33 million. It's going to look like Nebraska at a certain degree, right? It's like we've never had a true weight room and a conditioning arena. There's going to be turf inside. There's already turf outside on the grass. It is going to be a true human performance center for us. So we were always next. Firearms got paid. The gates look beautiful, but the Lion's Den was a junior high weight room, right? And we'll be senior high next fall is what they're saying. We'll see. Hopefully everything continues.
Is that by the track
forward.
Or where's that going?
Yeah, it almost overlooks the track, to the left side.
Okay.
So it's going to be amazing, and we're only going to get harder. We got more weapons coming in as far as some human performance. So we're excited. My last 10-year run will be in this monster facility that I can yell at people like you and return some fire, right? So,
right. One thing when I was there, I think it was 2007. That place is under construction all the time. I came back in 2015 as the president of our chapter to the president's conference, and some of it still hadn't been done. So hopefully they're telling you the truth and they get that done because I think it's really important.
Well, I think it was money from a few years ago from former director Ray, who he was a very fit director, ran with the new agents. So we were lucky to have somebody really fit. And I think Mr. Patel plays some ice hockey, I hear. So that's all I need to hear. And I know the UFC's come up in conversation, but we'll see. But I need a fit director, right? And we have some 2 very fit ADs and ADDs right now in that chair, at Quantico, and that helps. But it was definitely, money from years ago. Right. And we just hope it keeps rolling. And but who knows the cost of steel right now? I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, amen to that, right?
We got to get that lowered a little bit so we can get a new facility. So, but we're excited. We've done a lot with less over the years, and it's never a big deal for us. But we are only going to get better, by this time next summer, next fall. So Please come back. Please come back and see it.
Yeah, we'd love to come see it, and we're working. Money's always, it doesn't grow on trees, but we're trying to plant some trees. Maybe that'll help. But we're working on a fitness facility, training facility here as well. So that's something that we're hoping to do. And in the meantime,
incredible,
Ben, I know we've been talking about maybe even just some contracting with some. We've got a fitness facility here, but I think it was built, for like Rocky IV, back when we were just doing the weights and doing the treadmills and things like that. So we're looking at some options to try and replicate some of what you're doing in Quantico, even if, we're contracting with some outside partners. So that's something we're looking at baking into our in-services a little bit.
Yeah, so. And I think it's just so important getting somebody in that knows what they're doing and teaching. It's very intimidating if you've never done it before and walk in and start asking for help and not knowing. So this may be a way for some of the folks to be able to get a good start and a good foundation to get going on that.
Yeah, I mean, we're the same way. It's like if Nebraska had an assistant strength coach job available, some of that salary is like $40,000 and $50,000. Like nobody in the FBI understands that we should have a strength coach at every major field office. You don't only have to pay this kid, 40 to 50 grand. Like it's not $100,000. It's like, so when you have credentials, you would have 500 applicants for a Nebraska $50,000 job. And I think that's what people need to understand in my profession. I mean, we're cheap. People are cheap in my profession with unbelievable credentials, So we're trying to get the FBI to do that because our agents need structure in the field. They can't just do it on their own,
right?
But that's going to be our cause down the road a little bit. Yeah, everybody needs a coach, right? I mean, every organization needs a coach to just, because we've had HRT for years tell us, hey, what do I do today? I know I'm going to be in the helicopter. I know I'm going to have a fast rope. But tell me what to do today, right? And that's what people, they want to get coached.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head there. And at just what we were asking you earlier, make it simple for me. What do I do? People do the work. Just what do I do? But before we let you go, and this is just something that, whether we're talking to you, whether we're talking to, some of our other law enforcement partners, but how do health and fitness training help keep communities, states, and the United States safer?
Well, I think you all signed off on being fit for the job, right? So I go back to your grassroots of like I signed up to be a health and fitness instructor for as long as possible. So I need to show people how to live right, and that's what it's all about. I love those stories on TV. I watch the news like everybody else of that police officer playing a little bit of basketball, and meeting some kids. Like I don't see enough of those videos out there, but people are always going to look at you and look at me. Am I fit? Is that guy fit? Is that police officer fit? And then they'll decide the route, right? It's like, or maybe they won't want to mess with you because of your strength and your size. Like they're always going to give you that look, and I think they do in my profession too. People in my profession that are overweight, that are not fit, I don't know why they're in the profession, to be honest with you. We certainly wouldn't bring them in to interview if they didn't look the par and be the par, right? So, but I think it's so important to establish, the relationships, I think, with the fountain of youth, right? And that's a huge reason why I coach, is because I want to show kids how to train right, because sometimes their parents don't train with them, or there is no physical culture with some of these kids playing youth sports. So, but I think for my police officers, you're the most unselfish people I've ever trained in my life. But I need you to be selfish and do some basic stuff over and over so I can travel anywhere and get that pension. Like I want every penny, and I want you to go out on your terms and not somebody else's terms, right? So, and then the back half of your career is going to be beautiful to golf and to fish and to hike and to do whatever you want because you have the body that you took care of. There's no refund. There's no refund policy. I can always start over, but I think let's pass that look test, anymore. I think it's important, but I'm worried about at home. Like what's at home? Because your wife is there, possibly your husband is there, and they're counting on you. You're the pillars of your community, right? So I think I need my officers to be better at home just as well as they do their job at work. And I think that's where that mindfulness stuff comes in and some of that meditation stuff comes in. It's powerful. But I think people need to find their path with that. There's a lot of different forms of mindfulness.
Yeah, we've neglected that as a profession for an extremely long time, and I love that you're saying it.
The stigma, right? It's like of mental health, and you are pros. There's no off seasons for you all, right? Professional athletes get paid so much money. They have tons of off season time, and you're 24/7, right? You work as much as you want. So I need to treat you as the athletes that you are and give you all the hacks and the tips to try to get better. But at the end of the day, like, there's people supporting you at home, and I got to be better for them, you know? And the job will be the job. We're all intense at our jobs, but when I go home, I need to give them that same energy and that same passion, right? And if the boys say, let's go play, I can't tell them no matter how tired I am. I think when they were younger, I probably was kind of that bad dad, right? Because they were 5, 6, and 7 years old, right? I was overwhelmed, I think, with having 3 boys. Now, I told you the dog's the only one running to me. That's it. Everybody else can care less. I'm home. So, I think when I see police officers in Stafford County, like, I expect you to be fit. You know, I'm not asking. I expect it, right? It's like, but there's some things that everybody needs to do before they want to do, right? So I think that's a huge thing, and just from a confidence standpoint. You know, when I meet officers, I can tell that they're confident. I can tell that they've lifted some weights, and you know, let's go back to our grassroots, right? You sign up to be really fit, and let's get to some of that back, because I worry about disease. I worry about disease and all the trauma that you've all seen in your day. Like, my wife must retire first. She works in a sweatshop. I mean, let's call it what it is, in the ICU. So I think every officer has the ability, right? There's no talent required, but they just have to make up their mind that I'm going to do this for 6 weeks. You know, no questions asked, and just put in time, right?
Yeah.
The body doesn't lie, right? The camp will never lie to anybody. And that's why we have that 10-week camp at Quantico. You can do as much as you want, right? And but I think every officer needs that camp, but they need some structure, right? Without the structure, it's tough.
Yeah.
So,
well, EJ, we can't thank you enough for joining us and giving us just a little insight on the health and fitness side of things. You know, you put a ton of blood, sweat into people out there 10 weeks at a time, on top of the new agents, and we just really appreciate all you do for the law enforcement community.
Oh, thank you, my superheroes. I tell people that all the time. I didn't ask your opinion, so you're superheroes to me, and I appreciate everything you do every day. So for your communities, so thank you again.
Thank you.
That is all the time that we have for today's episode of the 902 podcast. We appreciate you tuning in. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you enjoy listening to podcasts. You can also reach out to us on social media at LSO Nebraska on Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. To learn more about career opportunities at the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office, be sure to visit us at joinlso.com. You can also reach out to us via email at lso@lancaster.ne.gov. We hope to catch you on a future episode of the 902 podcast. Thanks for listening.